Hello everyone and welcome to the wonderful world of spoiler warning, and we have a little bit of a special show for you today, primarily because all of spoiler warning is a special show. Ain't it great? We already have more than 30 people watching this show. We have 13 likes and we have so many questions that are already in, but let's run down the headlines. Our focus today will be the revelation of what's going on with WWE's White Rabbit. We are going to be discussing Alistair Black denying that there was a conditional release, so no conditions to his release. We will then be talking Wargames, the Hulu deal coming to an end and what the WWE's next deal will be looking like. We have more on Logan Paul and the Saudi Arabia deal, including why the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia was so eager to get Logan Paul, and a little bit on the dead cat that is the War Games. Related to that, finally we're looking ahead to Survivor Series, and amongst all of that we will of course be answering your questions, so quite a lot to talk about today. In addition to all of that, of course, which we will be getting to, please do remember to hit like, subscribe if you have not already, and chat if you can. Our chat rate is a vital part of the growth of this channel. We are currently looking to get 1,650 subscribers. That is just 12 away after the growth of the War Games video earlier on today. So, to start off with, the White Rabbit, the topic on everybody's lips, and this is a bit multi-tier. I will be giving you an exact name, don't you worry, but there's a little bit more to it than just the name in question. Bray Wyatt has been in communication directly with Triple H and the WWE. A deal has been pitched to Bray Wyatt as they try to convince him to return, and the general consensus is we will be seeing Bray Wyatt in a WWE ring again. Not necessarily immediately, not necessarily anytime soon, but the general feel that I'm getting talking to people backstage is that Bray Wyatt is coming back. In full knowledge of this, Triple H is taking a bit of an opportunity. Triple H is taking the opportunity to essentially take advantage of this situation and tease the viewership. A large part of that is segments in commercial breaks, such as the theme for White Rabbit. This is intended to be a tease for Bray Wyatt. However, it is not directly connected to Bray Wyatt. Alistair Black is another person believed to be on his way back. We will be back in black for the WWE. So there is a temptation to go for a White Rabbit, Black Rabbit, Alistair Black situation. However, the White Rabbit historically has referred to Karrion Kross. The White Rabbit in this case is Karrion Kross. It is the continuation of his rebuild. We have not seen him actually in ring as of yet since his return. He is going to be someone that they are building up hugely, potentially straight to a championship. The White Rabbit is for him. It is also a strong possibility, because of what they're discussing at the moment, that the White Rabbit will refer to a faction helmed by Karrion Kross and Scarlett. They are discussing, at this point in time, a faction behind Karrion Kross. Pardon me. Be sure to hit like if you haven't already, and subscribe if you can. I'm going to run through a bit of chat, and then we're going to get on to what's going on with Alistair Black. So, Brad Becker has said hello to start us off. Austin says on the White Rabbit, I'm 50-50 with Bray and Kross, and especially Kross puts on Twitter, don't assume anything with him. The person that made Bray's Fiend mask made something new, looking like a rabbit. Triple H is a master of the tease here, as he of course has been doing with Johnny Gargano, with Boss and Glow as well. He is very much teasing us with Bray Wyatt. It is not Bray Wyatt, I don't believe. Code says, I would love for War Games, Bloodline and Sammy versus Drew, Fight Night, and Braun, Damage Control and Toxic Attraction versus Bianca, Sasha and Naomi if they have returned, Asuka and Alexa, Raquel and Shotzi. The idea of Toxic Attraction and also Sasha and Naomi, so a 5, would be handy. More on that later, but it will be 5-on-5 from what I can tell. Horsey says, I genuinely thought Kross, but then I saw Purple Light at a show as well, and is that linked to Bliss? No particular link to Bliss at this point in time, though a redesign of her character is being considered. Patrick says hello. Hello, Patrick. And Raymond says hello, Tom and everyone in chat. I'm holding off on trying to guess what the red lights mean. I won't believe it has anything to do with Bray until he shows up on TV. As far as Wargames goes, I would like Usos and Solo versus Drew, Owens and Sammy. If they had another team, that's fine. They are the ones I care about right now. As I say, the plan for Wargames at the moment is 5-on-5. Wrestler fan says, hi Tom, would Brock Lesnar be wrestling a Crown Jewel and Survivor Series? He'll be wrestling at one of them from what I can tell. Ed says, for those who remember this show, Kross was part of a rabbit-based faction in Lucha Underground, and I think he might have even been called White Rabbit. He was indeed. Ed also says, not even sure the song is anything other than Triple H trolling, but who knows? Yep, full-on troll. Raymond says, Kross's gimmick is solid already. I don't see Triple H repackaging him when he already has a gimmick that is working for him. To be fair, he's already been repackaged because the previous gimmick wasn't working in any way, shape, or form. Sai, welcome, says, have to say WWE do guerrilla marketing really well. White Rabbit song, Logan Paul, even do nothing with Naomi and Banks. Just drop something vague, let the fans go nuts. Well done. Well done indeed. Hey Jaden, I'm doing well. Hi Monique, how are you? Hello Connor. Day's gone very, very well. Thank you. Right, okay, so let's keep catching up with on Twitch side. We'll get to our next piece of news in 4 minutes. Omega says, Tom Colohue, welcome mate. Spider-Boss says it will be Wargames, it will indeed. Also said MJF said in his interview with the MMA Hour, he signed a money raise of AEW that his contract still expires in 2024, so that would indeed be a new deal. Ofa says I might just be out of the loop, but does White Rabbit mean the incident that happened during SmackDown commercial break? Yes, it does. Sean says hello Tom. Hello Sean. Spider-Boss says Raw will be fun in Bayley's hometown. It will. She'll be welcomed as a hero, but not like she was in the UK. Sean says 1 hour ago, WWE put out a tweet that Miz will host Miz TV and his guest is he who shall not be named, Dexter Lumis. Yeah, it's weird for a stalker, isn't it? Ofa says, actually going to watch Raw tonight? Insane. Raw's been good recently. Spider-Boss says about Roman, what will be the main event of Extreme Rules? Possibly Bianca versus Bayley. More likely at this point in time, Drew versus Karrion Kross. Bacco says, there's a guy taking all of Tom's news and reporting it as their own exclusive on Twitter. Who's that, Bacco? Bacco, who's that? Sean says, so Malachi denied his release from AEW. Nope, he has been released from the from All Elite Wrestling. There is just no conditions on his release. He has himself denied that there are any conditions to his release. In a recent statement, in which he also discussed the claims of mental health issues, he did state that there were reports of a conditional release being in play, and he said that they were not the case. This, of course, would mean that Alistair Black can go wherever he wants, whenever he wants. Venom says, hi Tom, happy to see you, and you too Venom, welcome back. Brad Becker says, Wargames on the main roster? Indeed. Spider-Boss says, who will yell Wargames? Triple H, I'd imagine. Omega says, Roxanne Perez? Yes. Stuart says, can't wait to see what they do with Wargames on the main roster. Tear it up. Timothy says, what's up Tom? Nothing much, Timothy. Had a really good bank holiday, really chill. Glad to see you. Venom says, do you reckon we aren't getting an NXT Wargames because there's a main roster Wargames? At least not at the same time. No. Jermaine says, hi Tom. I know everyone's excited about the news of Wargames. Funny thing is, if people actually watch the SmackDown watch, they would know that I brought this possibility up 3 and 4 weeks ago. Yeah, Jermaine, 2 months ago, I started talking about Wargames at Survivor Series. So you may have brought it up 3 or 4 weeks ago, but we nailed this one a while back. Megan says, Wargames at Survivor Series then. Interesting, very interesting. Megan also brought this up quite a few weeks ago. Traffic says, good evening, Tom. Thanks for the report as always. No worries, Traffic. Welcome. Cam says, hi, Tom. Welcome, Cam. The Worst Channel says, if you've got Kurt Angle versus Bryan Danielson, for who would you book to go over and why? Bryan Danielson, because Kurt Angle can't wrestle anymore. Noob says, hello, Tom. Hello. Simon, no updates on Sasha Banks. No updates on Adam Cole. Spider-Boss says, could we consider the Damage Control versus Raquel and Aaliyah as a tease of Sasha and Naomi? Maybe, but it has already happened. The Worst Channel, I've already answered that one. Jermaine says, at the time you told me that the reason why WWE wasn't going to do Wargames this year is because the draft and other things were happening at the time, but the possibility was always on the table. Yes, that is exactly correct, and that is exactly the situation. The draft has essentially been answered. Taking a championship off of Roman has been answered. He'll just be in the Wargames match. Ed says, Tom, would they have issues with Lucha Underground with all that if it's a cross-faction gimmick? Possibly, but I think it's very, very likely that if that's going to be the case, if they're going to use the phrase White Rabbit, they may have had a word with them first. Joey said, if they do this cross-faction, who do you think will be in it? Great question. Razar says, who do you think is the Extreme Rules main event? Already mentioned that one. Michael says, hi Tom, welcome Michael. And Hector says, people thought the White Rabbit was Karrion Kross due to him using it when he was in Lucha Underground. I don't see that happening. The only issue is getting the rights to that White Rabbit if Lucha still owns that. Not sure how that works. I don't necessarily believe that they have trademarked it. Joey, great question about Sasha and Naomi. Cam says Billie Kay had revealed she was back in the ring training, so hopefully for a potential return. Highly unlikely, though. I wouldn't say it's highly unlikely. Wouldn't say that at all. Next up, we are going to talk Wargames. So there's quite a bit to discuss when it comes to Wargames. Primarily the fact that they have been discussing this for a long time now. Essentially, since Triple H took over on the main roster, he's been talking about getting Wargames onto the main roster with it. Since then, he's been building the factions required to make it happen, and this is one of the main reasons that Solo Sikoa has stepped up to the main roster so soon, despite the fact that we haven't seen Bron Breakker, Mandy Rose, Legado del Fantasma, and so on and so forth. Wargames was not a last-minute choice, but a lot of things fell out of the way in order to make it happen. One of the primary things that were sort of blocking Wargames was the draft, which is now being properly pushed back. It is also one of the reasons that they have gone without the Raw versus SmackDown system. There should still be Raw versus SmackDown elements. We are still looking at Lashley versus Gunther. However, Triple H wants to do away with Raw versus SmackDown, so that match may not take place. Wargames is going to be 5-on-5. It will be very typical of the elimination matches, but will not actually feature eliminations. Instead, the wrestling match will start with just 2 people in the ring. 1 from each team will be added every couple of minutes until there is 5v5 in the rings at one time, at which point there'll be a pinfall or a submission to decide the winner. Triple H announced this as something of a dead cat, and that may seem disappointing to people, but that is the situation. They were confident of Wargames a couple of days ago, but seeing some negative reaction to Roman Reigns versus Logan Paul, they decided that this was the perfect time to throw Wargames out there and make sure everyone is happy with the situation. Triple H essentially just dropped a bit of a bomb that makes everybody very, very happy. And this is, of course, knowing that in a couple of months, we also have Elimination Chamber. Early indications are that Damage Control will be headlining the women's Wargames match, and the Bloodline will be headlining the men's. Those are the 2 factions around which everything going forwards is being built. Simon says, will Paige sign with AEW? No contact to my knowledge. Kervin says, I hope Rhea Ripley is going to be in the Wargames match because Bayley needs somebody to take down Raquel. Well, certainly Judgment Day and Damage Control could be a lot of fun. Kings Andy, welcome. I'm not reporting further on Sasha and Naomi. Their return is now so close that there is nothing that I can report further. Michael says, Wargames is better than anything with brand supremacy. Well, you could have Wargames and brand supremacy. Let's not forget that that's not... let's not pretend that's not a thing. Wrestler Fan says, will Edge wrestle at Extreme Rules? No. Crown Jewel? Maybe. In the Survivor Series? Yes. Monique White says, I think it should be Judgment Day in Wargames. If that's the case, are we getting Judgment Day versus Bloodline? Because it's definitely Bloodline. Will says, it's like you said months ago, Triple H is keeping his surprise close to the chest. He is. As I say, he was working with a backlog of surprises, which means that some of them will not be announced on actual WWE TV, such as, for example, this. Simon, I do believe Tony Storm will be walking away with the championship. Kevin says, I see people complain about Logan Paul versus Roman Reigns for no reason. I agree. A lot of people have decided that they know the end result and that they should hate it for that reason. Connor says they had Natalya attack Ronda in a dark match during SmackDown. They're really pushing for the audience to cheer Ronda. The audience are cheering Ronda. They've already decided to have her working with heels. Bailey says, hello Tom, any further news on Big E's recovery timeline? No further news beyond what was already discussed. We're talking about early January Royal Rumble time. Joey says, does Malachi still have a 6-month non-compete clause in his contract? He has said that there are no conditions to his release, in which case that would not be the case. Anthony says, hi Tom, hello mate, how are you? Wiggly says, Tom, how are you doing? Doing very well, thank you Wiggly, welcome to the show. Spiderboss says, Liv v Ronda in Extreme Rules match, who do you see winning? Good question. Honestly, I think it's Ronda's turn. Wiggly says, what a day it's been today. Cute to pay my respects and just stayed at home today. Fair, that funeral lasted forever. Anthony says, I'm guessing that your thumbnail and picture is saying that Kross and Wyatt are working together, or that's what you're hearing. Nope. The two people in the thumbnail are suggestions that fans are getting behind for who could be White Rabbit. At the beginning of the show, I did discuss who White Rabbit is referring to. Timothy says, is Bray possibly coming back? I provided 2 big updates on Bray Wyatt in previous videos. By all means, go check them out. It'll tell you everything that you need to know. Pardon me. Sean says, WWE just confirmed Seth versus Lashley for the US title will open Raw. Even less likely then that Seth Rollins will be winning. Spider-Boss says, Wargames could be Bloodline versus a babyface team, right? It's not that it could, it will be. Bloodline versus a babyface team. Angel Lucia, welcome, says, what is the main event of WrestleMania 39 since Rock won't be there? There is a possibility that it's going to be Becky versus Ronda. There's a possibility it's going to be Seth versus Cody. There's a possibility it's going to be Roman versus Cody. They don't know yet because The Rock isn't booked, but they're still hopeful. Venom says, are they going to separate the tag belts or are they going to make them into just one set of tag belts? If at Survivor Series we get Wargames with the tag champions involved, they certainly are not splitting those championships up at any point soon. Likely it'll be WrestleMania before we actually get to it. Austin says, kind of sucks we won't get Volta versus Bobby. It's not guaranteed, but certainly it's less likely now than it was. Spider-Boss says, I'm glad we get Wargames for the main roster. Raw vs SmackDown was overdone. Very, very possibly that is the case, yes. Wiggly says, on a slightly off-topic point, Tom, were you aware the UK Parliament and all part? Yes, I was fully aware of that. They are kind of useless. Callie says, do you think they'll make Seth a babyface anytime soon? Nope. He's too good. Megan says, Bloodline versus Legado del Fantasmo would be an interesting match. Yes, it would, particularly with Usos and Solo. I don't think that would work with Roman per se. Venom says, were they finally going to do something with Legado when an opportunity pops up on the main roster and Triple H isn't already returning someone new? Spider-Boss says, Triple H, the king of teasing. I love it. Simon says, is Roman Reigns dropping the Raw WWE Championship by the end of the year? They're certainly not by Survivor Series. Let's see how that goes. Sean says, if they wanted a big match for Roman at Saudi, then have him face Rock so he can face someone else at WrestleMania. Nope, The Rock is not available, will not be travelling to Saudi, which is one of the main reasons that we're not seeing The Rock. If The Rock was available, he'd be there. Venom says, WWE can be normal again when Bray and Sasha are back. Disagree entirely, this is normal WWE as we have at the moment. Hector says, as long as Damage Control is a part of the Wargames match, I'm happy because Dakota Kai is one of the best turns in modern history, in my opinion, when she destroyed Tegan Nox. Io Shirai also has some considerable history in Wargames matches. Joey says, did the Saudi Prince request for Logan Paul? Yes, he did. Okay, Joey, thank you kindly for bringing this one up, because I do have a further update on Logan Paul's match with Roman Reigns in Saudi Arabia. We currently have 107 people watching on YouTube. Please remember to hit that thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. We are just 11 subscribers away from 1,650. So, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, has requested Logan Paul. Not just that, but he has requested famous American influencers in particular. Logan Paul's the one that they have. The Saudi Arabian government and kingdom, chieftain, whatever you want to call it, have been contacting influencers for a while now, attempting to get them to come over to Saudi Arabia and record propaganda on the behalf of the Saudi Arabian government. This is something that a lot of people have turned down, but a lot of people have signed up to, and we're seeing more concerts in Saudi Arabia. We're seeing a lot of talk about that big long city that they're talking about in Saudi Arabia. All very good marketing, but very little actual substance to it. They have requested Logan Paul be involved, much as way back when they requested a Yokozuna. The intention is that Logan Paul will be paid twice. The WWE will be given a bonus for getting him over, meaning that a lot of people are going to get paid a lot of money. Logan Paul might actually be cheered in Saudi Arabia as well. After all, he's a big commodity over there and sort of globally. The actual possibility of him winning, very, very slim. Logan Paul is not going to be winning either the WWE or the Universal Championships from Roman Reigns. The match is very much a spectacle, it is very much a house show format, and it will very much be over with within about 10-15 minutes. Roman will make Logan Paul look good briefly, and then Logan Paul will make him look good. But ultimately, the decision was made here based on a payday, and it is a hell of a payday that they're going to get. King Xander says Sasha, Naomi, Becky and Bianca versus Bayley, Control and Rhea. It will be 5 versus 5, King Xandy, not 4 versus 4. Welcome, Beer. Angel says, what will be the Met? You've already asked that one, Angel. I've already answered it. Sai says, I've no idea why anyone gets upset at a Saudi card. They're glorified house shows and not even WWE canon at this point. Just treats them as isolated shows and best ignored. Yep, that's exactly what they should be. Underground Temple says, hope you're doing well. White Rabbit is Karrion Kross as it leads to his Lucha Underground gimmick. We've already discussed White Rabbit at some length there, Underground Temple. Patrick says, big what if. Cody returns at Survivor Series for Wargames. I'm not counting on it. Yeah, he's not going to do that. He's not fit to do so. No, Simon. The vast majority of people are not having a negative response to Logan Paul and Roman Reigns. Whoever this JD guy is, I don't know what you're saying, but the fact that you're saying he's right is a bad sign when Vegeta later on says never say JD is right. From what I can tell, JD from NY is a misogynist, a sexist, and a bit of a bastard. So, no. I don't like what you've said there. Spider-Boss says, what a turn of events in SummerSlam. Ronda's getting cheered and Liv getting booed. The heel turn helped Ronda. It did. I did, of course, report on Twitter that there was a big heel turn coming that would make fans very happy, and look at Ronda Rousey now. Thank you very kindly, Wiggly, for subscribing on the Twitch side for a 9th month in a row. You've been a subscriber for 15 months total, Wiggly. Thank you very much. Thank you very kindly. I very much appreciate it. Timothy, I know Ed has already submitted that. Honestly, if you just look in the videos, Bray's face is right there, so it's a hard one to miss. Underground Temple suggests Bloodline, Roman, Usos, Solo and Zayn versus Owens, McIntyre, DIY, Loomis for some reason. DIY not currently a tag team. Loomis wouldn't necessarily be involved in that either. There's no real reason for any of that, to be honest. It's a very odd team you put together. Hector says, Tom, didn't you notice Michael Cole mentioned how Sammy and Ricochet have wrestled in PWG? This is best Michael Cole. I hope to hear him drop more promotions when referring to feuds. Yep, that's very much the plan. Noob Killer says, hi Tom, what if WrestleMania plans for guys like Lesnar, Drew, Cross and Strowman to have them wrestle? Most of them, they're still making up as they go along. Strowman, after all, just come back. Cross just come back. They don't have a plan as of yet. Wiggly says, surely Logan Paul's just getting a massive beatdown. They wouldn't do a David Arquette. Surely they will tease it. They won't do it. Callie says, do you think they'll make Seth? I've already answered that one, no. But I've already answered that one, Venom. Takeover Boston Survivor Series weekend, not sure. Ed's my guy on that one. I don't know the NXT schedule. Wiggly says, might sound like a silly question. I assume WWE won't renew the Saudi deal when it ends. Nick Khan is very interested in a new Saudi deal. Kervin says, who's going to be the person to beat Bianca Belair for the championship? Most likely right now, Bayley. Spiderboss says, just an opinion, Seth should not turn babyface again. Becky should stay as babyface. I agree with that. I like this Seth character. Johnny, welcome, mate. So I just wanted to say thank you for all you do for us. I appreciate the work you put in to give us accurate information. It's what I look forward to on Monday and Fridays. Well, thank you, Johnny. I appreciate that. I appreciate you giving me a shout out on Twitter. And I appreciate the amount of support I've had recently. A lot of people in here are really doing a lot to get the name out there and really help the channel grow. And I really do appreciate that. We're growing at a brilliant rate, a brilliant pace. And I'm so, so grateful for all of you who hit the like, hit the subscribe if you haven't, who chat, who just jump in and chat. The chat rate right now on YouTube is 6, which is great. It's fantastic. And it just continues to mean that we are growing and growing and growing. So thank you. Monique says, EO is the MVP for Wargames. I still remember the bin on the head. I still remember that. Spiderboss says, Roman versus Logan Paul could be the time when fans end happy because Roman retains. They've been happy long before that. Wiggly says, without getting political, if WWE did want to break the deal, they can't break the deal. They have no intention of breaking the deal. No comment on that one, Barry, but what a line. Anthony says, Tom, do you think with Wargames happening on the main roster, it's possible they involve Imperium? Possible, unlikely at this point in time. Alyssa says, is Charlotte getting a push? Comeback rumour going around. Might be Bianca Belair for the title. She's on the wrong brand for that, so it's unlikely. Simon says, Roman versus Bobby Lashley, a possibility for the Universal title, a chance to happen if The Rock does not wrestle, and Seth versus Cody for the WWE title. I've mentioned both of those as a possibility, yes. JDP says there's going to be a bunch of TikTokers coming to Crown Jewel. Yes, no, absolutely there will be. There already is. Wiggly says they're even talking about the 2030 World Cup in Saudi. Yep, massive pandering. Massive pandering. Kings Andy says Crown Jewel is the biggest propaganda show on earth. Wiggly says, I always have to stress when I discuss this that the issue is with the Saudi regime, not the people of Saudi Arabia, which is fair. Monique says Roman is going to make him a star. That's all it is, and that is true. He's already a star, of course, and potentially, depending on what you follow, a bigger one than Roman. Underground Temple says, why do people just assume when a dark vignette comes onto our TV regarding WWE, people assume it's Bray Wyatt? Because people really want it to be Bray Wyatt. It's pure wishful thinking. JDP says, Sasha, Becky and Charlotte are all away at the moment. Becky's coming back soon. Just brief update on that one. Becky Lynch is training with both arms. She is regaining the momentum she was looking for. We are likely to see her again soon. Ross Welcome says, hi Tom, watching 60 minutes behind as I had something on. Received an email for gifted membership after watching the Logan Paul breaking news video. I'd just like to thank whoever it was. I believe that was FIFA Connor, Ross. I believe so. Venom says, I'd rather they feed Logan to Roman Reigns, have him get wrecked in the ring rather than kill another wrestler's momentum, which is pretty much the plan. Alexa Bliss fan says, any news on Alexa Bliss getting character change? As Zero News reported. I've discussed it earlier that there are discussions about it, but they don't necessarily want to do it. Triple H likes Alexa Bliss as she is, but Alexa Bliss does not like Alexa Bliss as she is. As regards Zero News, I cannot begin to discuss that. Joey says, I see why Triple H is putting more factions together with Wargames coming soon. Yeah, he knew this was coming. Traffic says, any legends or surprises rumoured for the Saudi show? If I told you the surprises, it won't be surprises. Kelly says, the country is filthy rich, so they will just throw a ton of money at whoever they want. Yeah. Rizal says, any update on when Charlotte is returning? They've been pushing it back for a while they sort of reinvent the character. They're looking at Charlotte to be more of a Triple H style. Will says, do you know anything new? They'll be doing new in the NXT rebrand. Hard to say on that one. I've spoken about the NXT rebrand for a while. I've discussed exactly what the situation is going to be and exactly what the transformation is going to be. Now it's all begun, and it basically just backs up everything that I've already said. King Rail wants the light heavyweight title back. You will not be getting that, Rail. Pop Culturist says, with Triple H's changes to have better wrestling performances, how hard will Wargames be going? Harder than NXT Wargames? About the same. About the same. It's he's trying to create essentially the same thing that he had. So that end result will be something very similar to what it was in NXT. Patrick says, do you see NXT having their own Wargames match later on? Yep. Sean suggests Damage Control Ronda and Shayna. Well, that wouldn't work because Damage Control are heels. Versus Bianca, Alexa, Asuka, Liv and Becky in Wargames. Liv is more of a heel than Ronda is, let's be fair. Simon says, could we still get Seth versus Roman for the world title at Survivor Series and a 5v5 Wargames match as well? Possibly, yes. The card has not been built yet. Underground Temple suggests Roman's just AW's Wardlow, so wildly successful. Wiggly says, I hope Asuka and EO don't go out to Saudi. Don't want them getting sucked into the propaganda. They could always turn it down. They won't. Wiggly says, yep, lost for words. WWE do want this deal because it's best for business. It makes them a lot of money. I don't know why it surprises people. Jermaine says this is a possibility Triple H could use Wargames as a way of having Sammy turn on the Bloodline, cost them the match. Yep, certainly a possibility. Certainly would be a way of doing things. Sean says, any chance Seth could bring back the Messiah? Nope. The character that he has now is an evolution of the Messiah. Timothy Bella says, Tom, you're a great journalist. Thank you, Timothy. I appreciate that, mate. JDP says, any words on plans for Ciampa? He will continue to back up The Miz until there is an actual plan. At the moment, they're still kind of working it out. Ed says, NXT doesn't seem very interested in travelling. However, they're doing TakeOver for Halloween Havoc in late October, so unlikely they would travel to Boston. Fair enough. Thank you kindly, Ed. Backo says, I cannot find the name of the person taking Tom's content, so on Friday and forgot to save it. If I see it again, I'll save it this time. Well, I appreciate that. If what I have found is, you know how I'll report news here and it won't get out into the wider world? What I do find is that if people clip and share clips of these shows, the news tends to get out pretty far and wide. Doesn't necessarily mean that we grow here because they take the clip instead of the actual show, but we are where we are. Callie, I've already discussed Becky coming back. She's training and will be back shortly. Spider-Boss says it's funny how Meltzer and Sean Ross Sapp report the same news we hear in spoiler warning with weeks ahead. Yep. That does happen at times. We all know that. When I'll report something for free in a little while longer, it's on paywall from Fightful or a Wrestling Observer. They also report things that I don't know. That journalism, particularly wrestling journalism, should be collaborative. We should be able to work together. It's just that some people really don't like that as a concept. Vegeta says, Braun has been world champ and he's over in WWE. Can't argue with that, unfortunately. Simon says, could Austin Theory cash in on Logan Paul? No, because Logan Paul's not going to be a world champion. You can't cash in on a not champion. Kevin says, if Sasha and Naomi returns are very close, it's most likely they'll be added to the Wargames match. That is an assumption that you've made there, Kevin. Spider-Boss says, this crown jewel will be the first that doesn't feature a Hall of Famer. Give it time. Joey says, do you think Becky will return for Wargames? No. Anthony says, Tom, do you think what happens is Triple H unifies both the Universal and WWE title and retires the actual Universal title belt and brings back the... Nope. Triple H has no plan to bring back the big gold belt. He doesn't like nostalgia like that. Anything that involves the phrase, bring back the big gold belt, it's not true. That simple. Spider-Boss says, with Bayley possibly defeating Bianca, I see Io and Dakota getting involved so Bianca doesn't lose clean. Yep, that's very much the plan. Simon says, do you see Roman with no world titles belts this time next year at all? Maybe. It's hard to say. Monique says, I'm pumped for War Games. Take says, when will Goldberg wrestle again? Probably never. Venom says, when do you think we'll get a babyface Corbin? Probably never. Sean says, congrats to Mandy Rose on her engagement to former WWE superstar Tino Sabatelli. Congratulations indeed. Underground Temple suggests Damage Control, Bayley, Io, Dakota, Raquel, Tegan Nox. They just attacked Raquel, and Tegan Nox is not currently a wrestler for the WWE, so that's not going to happen. There's a team bad. Bianca Belair, Sasha Banks, Asuka, Naomi, Tamina. Well, that's a team. Would you change anything? Yes, most of it. Wrestling and Magic says it would be nice to see Wargames at Survivor Series. Indeed, that is where we are headed. Hector says, Tom, this is a little off topic, but what's the appeal of breakfast baked beans in a British breakfast spread? Always wondered, as being from the US, that's not a thing here. It's a great question. I have absolutely no idea. I don't personally get it. I'd rather have mushrooms. Thomas says, who do you think will be involved in the Wargames match? I've discussed that a little bit earlier, but they're being built around Damage Control and the Bloodline. Alyssa says, how would you book Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania? What would the story be about? I wouldn't. I'd book Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins at WrestleMania. Hey KJ, how you doing, mate? Monique says, Tom has not been wrong. There are definitely moments when I have been wrong. There are definitely moments when I have been wrong. I speculate quite a bit. I always make it clear I'm not speculating, but sometimes that speculation's wrong. There's definitely moments. Ed says, as regards the Saudi deal, it makes them an obscene amount of money. It rivals the network TV deals, if I remember correctly. Rivals, completely overpowers one of them. L says, Triple H said that he was bringing more surprises. Who could that be? That would be surprise. KJ says, someone said Strowman is WWE's Wardlow. Braun was around first just because he does a powerbomb. Doesn't make him Wardlow. Braun did his on while having an opponent on one shoulder, not both. I do feel that Braun is sort of more Psycho Sid when he came to WCW, personally. Wrestling Magic says, how is the king of wrestling news today? And happy Monday, Tom. Happy Monday to you too, Magic. KJ says, is Logan Paul big time in Saudi? Yep, absolutely. L says, Triple H says, okay, you've already asked that one. I've already answered it. Anthony says, Tom, with the tweets that Triple H is making on Drew McIntyre's character, if there was a stable that you would create with Drew, who would be in it? No one. I would not make a stable around Drew McIntyre. I would just make him the Scottish psychopath again and have him go to war. Venom already answered that question about 4 times. Spider-Boss says, what is the plan for Judgment Day? At the moment, the plan is still very much revolving around the return of Edge. They're taking their time with it. Alyssa says, should Halloween Havoc be a main roster pay-per-view? Nope, should very much be an NXT one. Michael says, Asuka and Alexa getting a title match at some point soon? Yes, but they're taking their time first to sort of give the characters a bit of time to rest and work out what they want to do with them. Adrian says, good day, Tom. Good day, Adrian. Just left work and run quickly to watch this. I look forward to watching the show from the beginning later on. Thank you, Adrian. I appreciate that. It's very nice to hear. Thomas says, who would you love to see go against the Bloodline? Whole heap of people. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn first and foremost. Having Drew's a shoe-in. But I'd also like it to be, for example, Street Profits. I would still like Bloodline Trio versus Imperium versus Fight Night. I would love that. I'd absolutely love it. We have a little more information as regards the end of the TV deal for Hulu. Hulu in the US for a long time has been taking WWE's Raw and SmackDown shows, cutting them down into 1 hour highlight reels and then showing them on their platform. Triple H is looking for greater exclusivity and is looking for a new partner because he's not happy with that deal. I say Triple H, this is one of the main reasons he's become a chief content officer, but it also involves Nick Khan and of course Stephanie McMahon making that decision. The Hulu deal will be allowed to expire because they were not able to get around the table and come to a consensus and a decision that everyone would agree with, so they are now looking for something new. Hulu is not a great earner for the WWE compared to, for example, Fox. Fox may take over the same platform and are using their in-house services, but at the same time, Nick Khan is currently looking at a Netflix, a Disney Plus, or a Amazon Prime. There are also approaches from HBO and Paramount Plus. So he's speaking to some of the big providers to try and make something happen for a lot more money than they've been getting. Venom says Braun, Tyler, Dragunov and Grimes would be a good team in the babyface side for NXT. Possibly, yes. Elle says, will John Cena return? Eventually, yeah. Spider-Boss says, could we see Edge put over Judgment Day at Crown Jewel? We could, I just don't think we will. Jonathan Welcome says, women's Wargames match, damage control with Rhea and a heel turning Alexa Bliss versus Bianca, Asuka, Banks, Naomi, and a returning Charlotte. You put Charlotte in the wrong side there. Very much Charlotte and Alexa Bliss are both on the exact wrong side. Anthony says, Tom, with everything going into streaming the next 2 or 3 years, does WWE maybe move towards a big streaming deal for Raw, SmackDown with Amazon or Apple TV or Fight TV? I have just discussed that, so I would have done that after you typed out that message as I was catching up. But yeah, they're looking for a big platform to provide that service. Pop Culturist said, would be cool if having Wargames on a pay-per-view, it'll be brought across to the next WWE game. It will most likely be in the next WWE game. As will a few things, Elimination Chamber, mid-card titles in the GM mode, that sort of thing. A lot of focus has been put in GM mode for the next 2K game, I'll tell you that. Joey says, do you think Legado could help Edge and Ray against Judgment Day? No, primarily because Legado are not faces, to my knowledge. And I believe the only connection that you're looking for there is, oh, they're all high flyers and Latin, and it's not the right way to do things. As I say, Triple H is not interested in nationalist factions. Simon, that question has been asked 5 times. I have not answered it. I'm not going to start answering it now. Joe Ridley says, Tom, if Braun is Sid, we best hope he doesn't bust his leg in the same way. That was one gruesome sight. Yep, seen it once, never want to see it again. Elle says, will Johnny Gargano and Ciampa be tagged again in the future? There has been no discussion that I'm aware of about making that happen any time soon. Spider-Man says, I think at some point the Judgment Day should defeat Edge. I agree. Edge should be putting people over at this stage of his career. Simon says, Tom, your thoughts on the 24/7 Crash Holly era of the hardcore division in the Attitude Era? Some of my favourite times watching WWE TV. That's simple. Mick, how you doing? Says, anything to be excited for tonight's Raw? Yes, good wrestling matches. We currently have 93 viewers and only the 43 likes. Please do remember to hit that thumbs up if you haven't already. And if you're new here, click subscribe. We get an average viewership of 48% unsubscribed, so I know that there are plenty of people here who would never subscribe to the channel. If you do subscribe, you get a lot more news than just what comes in these shows, and a lot more access as well. Earlier today, we did talk about the Wargames match, for example, and gained some subscribers in that one. That video has nearly 400 views at time of going live, considering we only have 1,600 subscribers. That's pretty impressive. So it's well worth your time hitting that subscribe button and making it happen. Sean says, Kevin Nash was asked which WWE superstar he believes could play Batman. He picked Randy Orton. I guess I can't see Randy as Batman, to be honest. He's got the voice for it. Also, I don't know if you know, but do you remember that time Batman just sort of RKO'd the Joker? Yeah, definitely happened. Simon says, when is Charlotte returning? Soon. Barry says, for some reason I thought you were talking of all-day breakfast in a tin. I definitely wasn't talking about that. Spider-Ball says, Giovanni Vinci and Ludwig Kaiser versus the Usos. Who do you see winning? The Usos at this point in time. It's one of the reasons the match hasn't happened. Elle says, if the Street Profit ever gets to wrestle Private Party, who will win? That will not happen. Wiggly says, excited to hopefully meet The Rock next month. I'm excited for you, mate. Brad Becker says, Tom, are there any returns that you would like to see that I haven't reported on? Plenty. There is a reason I haven't reported on them, though. Simon says, cash in on the match versus Logan Paul, Roman take the WWE title back to Raw. If Austin Theory cashes in on that match, we are more likely to see Logan Paul win the championship. Kieran says, I feel like Netflix could easily get Raw on there for a few $100 million. Just throwing a number out there, don't exactly know how much Hulu paid. Not that much. Not that much. Hector says, I assume it's Triple H's idea to have Karrion potentially heading up his own faction. The fact that this didn't happen in the past is crazy, because Karrion has so much charisma, can get really creative with a faction. I'm excited if that's the direction. I also think it would give Scarlett a lot more to do. And I feel that Scarlett is someone who could benefit from having a lot more to do, to be completely honest. Sean says, do you know why the next episodes of NXT have been taped? I do not. Simon says, Corbin probably a career heel. I agree. Underground Temple says, would Bronson Reed be a great get for WWE? As for the SmackDown roster, would you like Gunther versus Bronson Reed down the line for the IC title? That's built on a number of assumptions there, Underground Temple. I know you're asking for my opinion, but I don't know if Bronson Reed's going to sign. No, Wiggly, I don't think Randy dies at the end. I know you're asking about a different film, but I'm still talking about Batman, because spoilers. Jaden says, any 2K23 news? I believe I've just given it. Thomas says, do you think that we will get more surprise returns? Yes. Venom says, I want to heal John Cena. Never going to happen. Elle says, I think Alexa Bliss and Liv Morgan will be a good tag team since they both look like Harley Quinn. They don't both look like Harley Quinn. They look like their own individual people. Harley Quinn is a very different character. Alexa Bliss has made herself look like Harley Quinn at times. However, the fact that they are both blonde white women is not enough to say that you look like Harley Quinn. I don't know, Jaden, as to when we're getting a teaser for the next 2K game. It is in development. We are likely to get a cover star shortly, but they have delayed it a little bit and are taking more time with it. Patrick says, do you think Bron Breakker gets called up before WrestleMania? I did. I no longer am confident in that. Elle says, I wish Rob Van Dam returns. Nobody else does. As in, WWE don't. Kervin says, the big surprise for Survivor Series is Dave Meltzer call up Tom for a match WrestleMania 39. Yeah, because everybody wants to see that. Spider-Boss says, I don't get why people want to see Legado del Fantasma helping Rey Mysterio because of the Latin connection. It's purely nationalistic. Mick says, a part of good wrestling matches, something to stay awake for. What else do you want? It's a wrestling show. I'm not going to sit here and say, here are all the surprises that are going to happen on Raw tonight. If that's what you're looking for, you're in the wrong place. Joey says, what's up with this potential cross-faction? Do you know who the members would be? Or is it only being discussed right now? Again, at this point, all I know is that there are discussions of a faction under Karrion Kross and, of course, under Scarlett. Wiggly says, Tom, do I recall you saying you're down in London for New Japan? Could we all do a big meet-up in London? I will be down for New Japan. I'm not sure who we all is, because we're a very, very broad spectrum here. Wiggly says, Asuka turns 41 soon. Do you think she'll keep wrestling much longer? Yeah. Connor says, quick little fact, Liv Morgan is featured in every single pay-per-view this year so far, bar WrestleMania Backlash, Connor. Get it right, WrestleMania Backlash. Quite impressive. Impressive indeed. Shows how hard they are pushing her, or at least trying to. Fans, of course, have already turned on her. KJ says, what would you think of Wargames being Jay, Jimmy, Sammy, Sikoa versus Drew, KO, Riddle, and a returning Randy? What you're missing there, KJ, is that Wargames will be 5 versus 5. So you would need at least one more person. Spider-Boss says, stables taking over WWE, Bloodline, Imperium, Damage Control. I love it. Absolutely. Jermaine says, with Bayley possibly beating Bianca for the Raw title, would that mean they're setting up Bayley versus Becky at WrestleMania or Bayley versus Bianca? Because I don't see how WWE can do Charlotte versus Bianca. To my knowledge, there is no plan to do Charlotte versus Bianca just yet. That is likely to happen at some point in the future, but no plan at this point in time. They're on different brands. Simon says, any update when Thunder Rosa is returning from her back injury, when she's fit to do so? Blackwell says, considering WWE's international deal in Indonesia, wouldn't Disney Plus be a dead set for the company, seeing as they already have one in place? Well, it depends who gives the most money. There is no such thing as a dead set. It's just whoever gives the most money. Kind of simple. Will says, I think people need to get used to Triple H long-term storytelling. We have to have patience. Yeah, but people really don't want to do that. Not sure I'd agree there, Wiggly. Not sure I'd agree. Very, very different shaped face, for example. Hector says, is there a reason why the Raw and SmackDown replays couldn't be bought by Universal and be on Peacock? There is no reason why they couldn't be bought. Only one issue: money. I think I've been very clear on exactly what they're looking for: money and a streaming service. They don't care who, could not care less. It comes down to whoever pays them the most. Ed says NXT is likely being taped because they're either going on the road for a Florida loop or because they're getting ready to reset the CWC for the rebranded NXT, as it still had the 2.0 during tapings, and we did have it teased in the evolution of that format. Elle says, can Isaiah Swerve Scott quit AEW if he wants to, if the company wants him to? And you're asking a lot there, Elle. You need to realise that. You can't just walk out on a contract. Thomas says, who do you think will be the cover star for 2K23? Roman. Sean says, if Cody isn't the cover star of 2K23, I don't know who else could be. Roman. The fact that he's already been on the cover doesn't mean anything. It's Roman. Underground Temple says 2K should wait out for bringing out the new year at least 2 years, but that's just me. No intention to do that. They want to become a franchise like FIFA or Madden. Barry says trouble with wrestling on Netflix style services rather than on regular TV would be it becomes a show that everyone will watch at different times. Yeah, they don't care, they just want the money. Elle says, will Tessa Blanchard ever sign with WWE or AEW? No intention via WWE or AEW to sign her. Simon says that Big Papa Pump Scott Steiner is going to be in a table for free with Rick Bron Breakker very shortly in the WWE Network. I saw that and I like it as a concept. I like it. It's everything I really look for. Venom says, any returns tonight on Raw? Once again, I'm not going to sit here and tell you every possible surprise. There's already plenty more people out there who spoil everything for you. Spider-Boss says, when could we see Sheamus versus Gunter 2? Pretty much any week they could book that, because why not? Jonathan says, Bloodline versus Seth, Kevin Owens, AJ Styles, Riddle, and a returning Randy Orton. Add a stop stating if Bloodline loses, Roman must drop the WWE Championship. Yeah. AJ Styles has no reason to be there, though. Doesn't really work for him. Kervin says, Ronda Rousey versus Becky, 3 years too late, but WrestleMania 39. Bayley versus Becky Lynch, a dream match. Yep. The WWE still hoping to do Becky versus Ronda. They've been talking about it for a long time. I've been talking about it for a long time as well. Basically, since Ronda returned at the Royal Rumble, which of course was reported first by yours truly, I've been talking about the fact that they want to do Becky versus Ronda. It's nice seeing so many other places now reporting exclusively that it's Becky versus Ronda. JJ, how you doing, mate? They say, Tom, I'm late. We'll watch the show from the beginning later. But everyone talking about factions, just give me Becky and Kaylee Ray as a team. Why? What would be their reason? Dog Knight says, good evening. 40 years old and only came across the Shockmaster debut today. One of the funniest things I've ever seen. Can't stop re-watching. Firstly, yeah, it's funny. Secondly, the commentary is so funny from everybody watching it live there. It's brilliant. Simon says, Scarlett is actually a pretty decent pro wrestler. Yes, she absolutely is. Hence the faction would be expanding and she'd be involved. Spider-Boss says Roman has been acknowledged by Austin, Triple H and MJF. Some fans keep hating Roman nowadays. He is a heel. Some people still real to them. Sean says, is cable TV not paying WWE enough to keep Raw and SmackDown? They are not selling Raw and SmackDown. They're selling the 1 hour long highlight reel of SmackDown and Raw, which is not a selling of Raw and SmackDown. It's part of the Hulu deal, which is coming to an end. Underground Temple says, who would you put in Karrion Kross's new faction? Once again, I don't know. Haven't had time to think about it. I only just found out about this recently, and it's still very much in discussion, so I'm not sure. Underground Temple suggests Joe Gacy, Cameron Grimes, and the Dyad. Kieran says, was AW retweeting a Young Bucks tweet confirming their suspension is probably over? No. Simon says, with US, when is AW Fight Forever out? Great question. They have not said, to my knowledge, have they? Venom says, do you think we'll get AJ versus Roman during Roman's title run? Nope. Not while AJ is on Raw. He doesn't want to work with Roman because of Paul Heyman. Spider-Boss says, Roman at the press conference with Logan Paul on Saturday was fun. Roman mocking a kid was so funny. Roman is an unstoppable force at the moment, and I love him. Sean says, chances HBK could get Ronda to appear on NXT. Would Ronda agree to appear? Ronda has limited dates. It is unlikely she would do so. Hector says, Tom, did you see Miro low-key crap all over that dumb backstage segment with the guy as a pizza gimmick? Miro is the best. Also, yes. I'm a big fan of Miro. I catch up with a lot of what he does, and he's a lot funnier than people give him credit for. Elle says they want to turn Roman as a babyface. Do they? First I've heard about that, because that's certainly not what anybody's telling me. Simon says, I could personally see Austin Theory catching on Cody at Mania 39, main event night 1 after Cody wins the WWE title, spoiling Cody's moment. No plans to do that. Venom says, do you collect WWE belts? Nope. Spider-Boss says, who do you see as the future face of WWE, Bron Breakker or Carmelo Hayes? Bron Breakker. Ghost says, Wargames idea, Damage Control, Candice LeRae, Indy Hartwell versus Bianca Belair, Becky Lynch, Sasha Banks, Naomi in the return of an icon. The gobbledygooker. The money would be rolling in, and everybody does want that money. Connor says, one thing I disliked about Finn joining Judgment Day was that there is zero follow-up or recognition from AJ or Liv. They just brushed their team under the carpet. They did. It was basically entirely forgotten about. Kervin says, I hope Charlotte doesn't win the Raw or SmackDown Women's Championship because it's too much new talent deserving an opportunity. Yep, and new talent like Liv are getting booed for the chance. El says Carmelo Hayes versus Rico was a good match. Spider-Man says Miro was so over with Rusev Day. Never got why WWE didn't give him a push. He got a WWE Championship match against AJ Styles. He did get a push. Sean says, imagine Theory catching on Bron Breakker. Not going to happen. Steve, welcome, says, should some wrestlers like Kevin Owens or superstars from NXT be involved in Wargames as they have experience in the match? Almost like a general for those going into the match for the first time. Yes, a ring general like Kevin Owens could be very, very beneficial. It's also why we've got Io Shirai going into it. Very well, Steve. I hope you're well also. Kieran says, do you think Roman versus AJ happening on a house show could mean they feud sooner than we think? Nope. Simon says, your favourite late 80s, early 90s wrestler? Brett. Venom says, do you think Shayna will screw Liv and help Ronda win the belt? How is she screwing her? She's a heel. Hector says, I don't like to future book, but I'd love to see an MJF feud with Roman if they ever end up in the same company. Imagine Roman giving MJF cry face. It would be great. That would be a promo off for the ages. We are 50 minutes into the hour, just 10 minutes left, and we are out of questions. So I'm going to start wrapping up there. We peaked at 106 viewers. We've had 47 likes and a handful of new subscribers. We are now sitting at 1,640 subscribers. Slowly but surely, we continue to climb and compete. So, with that in mind then, I'm going to wrap us up. We'll see you all again on Friday, if not before. Save some questions for them. There may be a show on Wednesday. But until then, seriously, thank you everyone for giving me the time, for giving me the entertainment, for giving me the questions, for making this show happen. Thank you. I've been Tom Colohue. You've been fantastic. Have a good day and have a good night.